Lions hosting the 9-3 Packers. The division is jammed up. The Lions lead the way, winners in 10 straight. They're 5-1 at home. The Vikings have won 5 in a row and sit right behind the Lions in the standings at 10-2-0, while the Packers are third at 9-3-0. They're looking to extend a 3-game winning streak tonight. Green Bay 4-1 away from home. 4 players are confirmed out for Detroit. That includes offensive tackle Taylor Decker, defensive tackle DJ Reader, and defensive lineman Josh Paschal and Levi Onwuzurike. Green Bay's ruled out cornerback Jair Alexander, receiver Romeo Doubs, linebacker Edrin Cooper, and cornerback Corey Ballantyne. The forecast in Detroit tonight, mostly clear with temperatures in the mid-20s. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Hard to believe that Christmas is only a couple of weeks away, right? But there's still plenty of time to find incredible gift deals because Macy's Friends and Family Sale is happening now. What does that mean? It means when you use your coupon or Macy's card, you can take an extra 30% off, just like Friends and Family can. That's 30% off the best holiday gifts, 30% off the best designer brands, 30% off what's trending right now. It's just this week. It's just what you were looking for, and it's only at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
This holiday season, Straight Talk Wireless is letting you say yes a lot more with real unlimited data. Yes to sharing pics of the ugliest holiday sweaters. Yes to checking weather on the go for surprise sledding trips. And with a free phone at sign up, let the yes-tivities begin.
No way!
Yes way. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart or straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 1/5/25 while supplies last at participating stores. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation on select single line plans. Limit of 2 phones per customer. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Hello and welcome to Football Full Circle live right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is the mastermind of the pigskin, the birthday boy himself. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Birthday was yesterday for Mr. Go for the 2, so everybody make sure you wish him a happy and sincere one, a belated happy birthday here on FFC. But Joe, celebrations continue on this Thursday. Huge NFC North divisional duel in Detroit to kick off Week 14 of this National Football League regular season. We will break down, preview, and give out some picks for Thursday night in the Motor City between the Lions and the Packers. And, of course, we'll get you set for Conference Championship weekend in college football as well.
Yeah, great week of NFL and college action and a really nice Thursday night game. You know, after Monday night's performance with Denver and Cleveland, I think this game could live up to the billing as well. I don't know if we'll get potentially 70-plus points, but you have 2 quarterbacks in Jordan Love and Jared Goff that dueled a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, 24-14. Detroit got the win as I think they were favorites in that matchup by like 2.5, 3 points, right?
Correct.
In that game. But I think when you look at this game played out as well last Thanksgiving where Jordan Love had a breakout performance. I lean to Green Bay in this spot, even though Detroit's playing lights out right now. I like the Packers, and I like Jordan Love in that passing attack to potentially take over this game tonight.
Listen, we will not bury the lead. Let's get right into the marquee matchup to kick off Week 14. Joe, only 5 weeks remain in the regular season. So this game and many others throughout this week and the final month to come will have direct implications on those divisional chases. And, of course, this game with 2 frontrunners in the NFC will have huge significance for the conference race as a whole. Lisi guy, 3.5-point spread in favor of the Lions. They are home tonight at Ford Field in the Motor City. High total, 51.5. Joe, you read the numbers, 3.5-point spread for a divisional duel, expected to be close. 51.5, a very high over-under. Not a short week game, however. Yes, played on a Thursday, but both teams a full week of rest as they did play exactly a week ago on Thanksgiving. Lisa Guy, the numbers are telling us This should be a great one to kick off Week 14. Do you think it will follow as the numbers dictate? Close, competitive, high scoring.
Yeah, I mean, the high scoring is the one area I don't know if we'll get through, the 51 and a half. You really, what do you need? Basically 31, 21, you're on point to get that over. It's possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. From the total perspective, I'm going to wait to see if we get a scoreless, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in the first quarter. We get that game in the mid-40s. That would be an area for me to jump in. But I still think both offenses will eat in this matchup. We know that Josh Jacobs did break out in that last performance, but it was a wet track. It was Jordan Love's first game back from the groin injury that he sustained against Jacksonville. And I think they were a little conservative trying to open it up. He did have, a huge second half performance after they fell behind in double digits. But with the fast track in a dome, I think both passing attacks are live tonight. I'm going with both number ones, Jared Goff to 250. Jordan Love, I took at 275. Did take Jaden Reed at 80 plus, along with St. Brown at 80 plus. And I also like Christian Watson 2-1 for potentially anytime touchdown tonight.
Yeah, Lisa Guy, a lot goes into that. Romeo Doubs, who has the second most targets for Green Bay this season, has been ruled out for tonight. He is dealing with a concussion. Of course, the Lions are tremendously banged up on the defensive side of the football, but the results have still been there. Second best scoring defense in the NFL, one of two teams only allowing fewer than 17 points per game alongside the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lisa Guy, as we look at the total, 51.5 will be game number 6 for Detroit this season with an over-under at 50 or higher. Previous 5, 4 times under for the Lions. Of course, the highest scoring team in the NFL, but when that total has been up there, the defense shines through for Detroit or just whatever reason, under in 4 of the first 5. Rather surprisingly, Joe, for an efficient offense like the Pack, first total this year at 50 plus for Green Bay. So like you, despite the fact it's not a short week, full week of rest for both, played inside on a fast track at Ford Field, I actually kind of lean under tonight. I'm not expecting 17-14. I'm just not sure we get through that 51.5 number.
Yeah, it could be, 28-21, and then, you have the under right there, 49 points. So it's a good look. That's why I say if you're going to play the over, if it was me, and that's how I am playing it tonight, I'm going to wait to see how the first quarter develops.
Yeah.
And then if you get a discount, 8, 9, 10 points, and we're in the low 40s or mid 40s, that's an area where I would feel comfortable with both, quarterbacks in this matchup. We know that they both want to run the football as well. The 1-2 tandem of Gibbs and Montgomery, they ground and pound. And Josh Jacobs, one of the best pickups, in terms of the offseason with Saquon and Derrick Henry.
Sure.
So he's going to run it as well. They need to keep defenses honest. I just think that both quarterbacks early on, we'll see it could be a feeling out process, especially when it's more, think about this. Green Bay's trying to catch Detroit. So this might have more of a playoff type of feel than what we see earlier in the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. They did meet just about a month ago. It was a very different set of circumstances. Jordan Love was injured late in the game against Jacksonville. We were not sure if he was going to play that following week after the knee injury against the Jags against Detroit. He did, but it was wet, it was rainy, it was sloppy outdoors at Lambeau Field. Detroit victorious as about a 2.5-point favorite, 24-14. Total, of course, stayed under in that game. The Lions, Joe, have been the best cover team the last 3.5 seasons in the National Football League since the beginning of last year when the expectations were mounting for Detroit to win a divisional crown, to contend for a conference championship, and the Lions were often booked as a favorite. Nobody has been better covering numbers. 19-8 against the spread for the Lions so far in the last 2 years or so. Meanwhile, Green Bay, not a shabby underdog in the last 2 years, 10-6 against the spread since Jordan Love took over as the starting quarterback. Last year, 8-4 ATS, 6 outright wins. This year, 2-2 against the spread. The only issue, Lisa Guy, the 2 games that Jordan Love has started under center, where the Pack has been booked as a dog. Opener in Brazil against Philadelphia. First game against Detroit at home have been the 2 non-covers for Green Bay as an underdog this season.
Yeah, and they're battle tested on the road. They're 4-1 straight up away from Lambeau. So again, they play very well. And you mentioned it in terms of the week one matchup against potentially the hottest team right now in the NFL as well. We talk about Buffalo. You talk about the Philadelphia Eagles ripping off 8 straight wins. I mean, they're there and they're coming off a dominant win over Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. They were in striking distance of that week one matchup. So again, when you look at this, it's like, what did you see the last game, right? I saw the last game, Green Bay dominate a Miami Dolphin team, and I saw Detroit, even though they dominated in the first half, that secondary did get abused in the second half by Caleb. I got to believe that Jordan Love can attack them over the top, and that's why I'll take the edge and take the points with Green Bay tonight on the road.
Yeah, that hook could loom large, Leasy Guy, and that hook has really been there since this line opened up for this Thursday night game to kick off Week 14. It hasn't really been at the flat 3. It hasn't gotten up to 4, 4.5, or higher. Much the same for the total. On the other side of the break, as we're coming up on the opening break here of Football Full Circle on this Thursday, we'll dive into the player props and then what this game means. Detroit is a hefty favorite to win the NFC North for a second consecutive season, minus 460. But it's not like the Lions, Joe, have some insurmountable divisional lead in terms of the standings. The implications and the props for tonight, up next.
Ball is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Investigators are searching for clues that could help them identify the masked gunman who stalked and killed the leader of one of the largest U.S. health insurance companies on a Manhattan sidewalk, then disappeared into Central Park. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas died in a dawn ambush Wednesday at age 50 as he walked to the company's annual investor conference at a Hilton in Midtown, blocks from tourist draws like Radio City Music Hall and the Museum of Modern Art. The police department offered a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. A former Florida ballerina has been sentenced to 20 years in prison following her manslaughter conviction for fatally shooting her estranged husband in 2020. Manatee County Court records show Circuit Judge Matt White imposed the sentence Tuesday on 32-year-old Ashley Benefield after rejecting her request for a new trial based on allegations of juror misconduct. Benefield contended that she killed her estranged husband, 58-year-old Doug Benefield, in self-defense during an argument at her house in Bradenton. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Let's face it, winter can be a hard season. It's cold pretty much all the time. Blizzard. You have to shovel. Another blizzard. You slip on ice. But you know what makes winter suck a little less? Getting a free phone. Join Cricket Nation and get a free Samsung Galaxy A15 5G. Ooh, ouch. Welcome to enjoying more. Welcome to Cricket Nation. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Must open a new line on the $60 unlimited plan. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards concert tickets for your daughter to see that singer who sings about painful breakups. And one song will inspire your little beauty to break up with that beast she's dating, Brian. Instead, she'll date someone who's nice and worthy of her love, not someone who addresses you and your spouse as bro. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
We are live right here on Football Full Circle to kick off a new week around the National Football League. Week 14 debuts tonight in Detroit. A huge NFC North divisional duel between the Lions and the Packers. Again, 3.5-point spread in favor of Detroit. 51.5 is that total. Lisa Guy, I mentioned before the break, we haven't seen a ton of change in the number. It's not like it was a field goal. Slew of money or bets came in on the Lions, added on the hook. It has remained at 3.5 basically all week. However, a slight change in what you got to lay if you want to take the underdog. Minus 118 is the juice now to get 3.5 points with the Packers. Minus 104 if you want to back the favorites. in Detroit. Let's go to the quarterback comparison. You mentioned the aerial attack for Jordan Love and the Packers tonight. His prop, 247.5 against Detroit tonight. The number for Jared Goff, about 6 yards higher than that of Love, 253.5. Why do you think Jordan Love in this Packers aerial attack could have some success in the Motor City on this Thursday?
Well, again, I go back to the Chicago game where Chicago's offense struggled in the first half. They shut down the rushing attack of Swift and Johnson in that matchup and forced the game onto Caleb Williams to make plays, right? He did in the second half after they fell behind by double digits. But I think Jordan Love, in order to open up the rushing attack with Josh Jacobs, wants to attack over the top early. I mean, again, you go back to Jordan Love's success. He distributes the football to a number of different wide receivers, utilizes the tight end Tucker Kraft as well. And I believe the defensive game plan for Detroit is to take away Josh Jacobs, right? Force the game over the top, and we'll see if they could do it. If they run the football early, now you open up the whole playbook, right? And I'm not suggesting Josh Jacobs is going to get 0 yards. I'm just thinking they'll be a little bit more aggressive on first and second down to open up the run, and that's where I think Love does have some success, and I think Green Bay does have an advantage tonight.
Yeah, so Lisa Guy, when you think about tonight for Jordan Love, again, 247 and a hook. He has played in 10 games for the Packers. He has completed 9. He has gone over this prop in 6 of those 9 games. And throughout the beginning portion of this season, at least the first 8 games that he started, he threw at least 1 interception in all games, 11 in total in that 8-game span. Last 2 weeks, though, much cleaner football. No INTs thrown by Jordan Love and multiple touchdown passes in both. Over 1.5 passing TDs for Love tonight is minus 128. Again, the total is north of 50 at 51 and a hook. Lisa Guy, when it comes to the Packers passing attack, it's always interesting because it seems to be such a distribution among many potential targets. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, of course, not playing tonight is Doubs. Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, the second-year tight end who has been great in Tucker Kraft. If you had to target Jordan Love's top target, who do you think that's going to be tonight?
I think it's Jaden Reed, and I keep going back, coming back to Detroit, right? Jaden Reed played at Michigan State, in-state type of recognition and wanted to always show out in front of the, college crowd back in the day. I think Jaden Reed is an option. Not only that, he's versatile. They utilize him in terms of fly sweeps. He's always there. Great hands as well. He is the most consistent wide receiver that they have. You could say Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson at times have stepped up. But again, Jaden Reed is the most consistent for me, and he's a great route runner. In terms of this matchup with a fast track, I'm taking a shot with Jaden Reed. I wanted to take him to 100 plus, but you're getting plus money at 80 yards tonight. I think it's great value.
Yeah, Lisa Guy, I think it's a great look. Jaden Reed has the highest receiving yards prop for this Packers team tonight, up from 58.5 earlier this morning, now 62 and a hook. It will be interesting to see kind of how some of Romeo Doubs' production. He has the second most targets on Green Bay, 58. Reed, the most targets so far this year. Doubs, 53. Reed, the most with 58. Where the rest of Romeo Doubs' expected production would go. Does it go to the secondary players? Christian Watson, big play threat. Dontavian Wicks, does it go to him? Does he fill in that secondary role? Or does Jaden Reed just elevate his game? The Lions are really good defending tight ends. I normally would look to Tucker Kraft. Don't like his spot tonight. On the other side, for Jared Goff and this Detroit team, Goff's number 253.5, a number he has also, like Love, been over 6 times this year, but in just half of the 12 games that Detroit has played. Lisa Guy, there was the 5-interception game for Jared Goff in Houston on that Sunday night. Outside of that, he's thrown an interception in just 3 games. The first 3 games of this season has barely turned the football over. It's why Detroit is 11-1. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown at the start of the show. One of my favorite bets for tonight, Amon-Ra 2-hit pay dirt plus 100. Even money from where it was at plus 105. He has not scored, that being Amon-Ra St. Brown, in the last 2 games for Detroit, but he was on an 8-game touchdown streak in the middle portion of this season. Didn't score in the first two, scored in 8 straight, has not scored in the last 2. I think there's some regression. I think you're getting a good number on Amon-Ra St. Brown for a game that features a high total.
Yeah, think about, the game in Thanksgiving. 5 receptions, 73 yards, 7 targets. Just like quiet, though, right? Even though the productivity was there, just seemed quiet when you watch that game play out. Jamison Williams also had 7 targets. But in prime time, with, an NFC North title on the line, you expect your big players to step up. Number 1 target, so it's a great look at plus 105. I think, Amon-Ra, for me, could get to 100. I tempered that down to 80 plus in terms of that because he loves to spread the football around, Jared Goff. But I think that's very doable. 80 and a touchdown tonight is within the realm of possibility in a big way.
Yeah, I think so as well, Joe. I think it's a really good look. Jamison Williams, 48.5, now up to 49 in a hook. His longest reception tonight, 22.5. Lisa Guy, let's give some credit to the backs. We'll continue to do so on the other side of the break as well. What a great matchup we have from the running back perspective. You got Josh Jacobs, who has been great in Green Bay. 70.5 is his prop for both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who both put up more than 85 yards on the ground on Turkey Day. We'll compare their numbers on the other side of the break, and then those ramifications for the divisional chase in the NFC North in the conference as a whole. Next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here and win.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1968, future Hockey Hall of Famer Phil Esposito of the Boston Bruins scores 2 goals against his goaltender brother, Tony Esposito, in his debut for the Montreal Canadiens.
They said, you scored both against him? I said, yeah. They said, how could you do that to your brother, you dirty so-and-so? I could have had 4 or 5 that night, but he was on top of his game. I think he had 38 shots that night.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Technical University of Munich researchers have developed a pair of robotic pants, sort of like an electric motor bicycle, instead making you walk or run faster. 2 artificial tendons connect your thigh to your waist. Adaptive software senses your stride, affecting 18% less load on your body, like you're 20 pounds lighter. Future robotic trousers are planned to help you climb mountains. However, not recommended to use underwater. Follow me at Chicapalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
You have Ohio State that brought the best players, had Chip Kelly and a gutless Ryan Day, and Ohio State limped in to the playoffs yet again. I mean, give me a break. How do you have that team as a 5th overall? They lost as a 20.5-point favorite at home to a team that was averaging 10 points a game. It's a joke.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. We preview Thursday Night Football in the Motor City. Joe, a focus on the backfields for both teams. Josh Jacobs, his prop tonight, 70.5 for Green Bay. As you look at the duo of running backs for Detroit, Sonic and Knuckles, 65.5 for Jahmyr Gibbs, 8 yards more than that of David Montgomery at 57.5. It was Montgomery last week who was technically the leading rusher for Detroit. He had 1 additional yard in front of Gibbs on Thanksgiving against Chicago. 88 for Montgomery, 87 for Gibbs. Both guys continuously eat Joe for this potent Lions offense.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to play it. Like, I might play Gibbs from the receiving game or rushing and receiving because of his versatility, because you never know who they ride the hot hand, right? But they do a great job of really, finding mismatches and then utilizing the proper back to really create, a strength for their offense, whether it be, David Montgomery running between the tackles, Jahmyr Gibbs, the home run hitter on the perimeter. So they utilize both. But again, trying to put your eggs in one basket, deciding which is going to be the guy tonight sometimes, could be detrimental from the gambling perspective. I do believe Gibbs has more value because of the pass catching ability and his ability in terms of the open field to create one-on-one mismatches. So I would take a shot there, maybe 80 plus for Gibbs rushing and receiving in that capacity. But again, Josh Jacobs is still the main cat for Green Bay. If they're going to run the football, and that's the thing, it's like, how does that game play out? If Green Bay, do you believe Green Bay wants to play a lower scoring game the way we saw it play out with Lambeau? I don't think so. I think Green Bay wants to grip it and rip it and have a game like we saw last year in Ford Field, where they put up basically almost 40 points and Jordan Love was throwing the ball all over the yard. So that would limit, maybe Josh Jacobs until the second half. I would go under his total.
Yeah, it is interesting, Joe, because when you look at these teams, Detroit is a top 5 rushing defense. Green Bay also ranks in the top 10. Detroit is a bottom 10 passing defense, but part of that also might be skewed because of how dominant the Lions have been this year playing from in front. It's why Jordan Love threw for more than 270 yards in the first matchup, despite the wind and the rain at Lambeau, because the Packers were trailing basically from the jump against Detroit on that day. The Detroit Lions, as we said, second best scoring defense in the NFL. I misspoke earlier. It's the Chargers at the first best scoring defense. Detroit second best, but still allowing fewer than 17 points per game. They only give up 227 through the air, but I do agree, Joe. If you are the Packers, you want to play with pace tonight. You're not trying to grind this out and make it ugly. I actually think that would favor Detroit. Interesting numbers, Lisa Guy. Last week, only 9 carries for Jahmyr Gibbs, 87 yards, 21 carries for 88 yards for David Montgomery. Montgomery has actually had at least 20 receiving yards in his last 5 games. His number tonight, 17.5. You often think Jahmyr Gibbs is that guy, rightfully so. They both can eat. Josh Jacobs, that number now on its way up, 71.5. He only had 43 last week and a score against the Dolphins. He had 74 receiving yards. He's gone over 71.5 in the previous 5 games, rushing the football before last week. So a lot to like tonight from that prop perspective, especially in a game that features a total of 51.5. Lisa Guy, let's talk Detroit in the division. Of course, it was their first divisional crown last year in 3 decades. Favored to win the competitive NFC North all year. They're a really heavy favorite right now at minus 460. Joe, there's little doubt, as the Lions are the short NFC favorites and the Super Bowl favorites, that either from the metrics, the odds, or our eyeballs, Detroit has been the best team in the National Football League this year. But the minus 460 number on the Lions to win the division would make it seem like the Lions have a 3.5 game lead. They're only a game up over the Vikings. They only have a 2-game lead over Green Bay. Now, they have played both Minnesota and Green Bay once this year. They have won both of those games, so they have the head-to-head tiebreaker right now. But if you beat Green Bay tonight, you solidify that divisional lead even more so before you end the year against Minnesota. Very compelling game from that divisional perspective.
It is. Their second half of the schedule, you look at it, they played Packers, Minnesota, and Buffalo. We'll see if they could do it. To your point, they win tonight. They almost put a stranglehold on the division, even though they meet up with Minnesota in a couple weeks. But again, I still bet against that. I like Packers or Minnesota right now.
And what it could do for Green Bay with a victory here, 10-3, a game behind Detroit with the even split, 13-1 on the Pack. More on FFC next.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. Shop Chuck Sanders. Thursday Night Football, it's an NFC North showdown with the 11-1 Lions hosting the 9-3 Packers. The division is jammed up. The Lions lead the way, winners in 10 straight. They're 5-1 at home. The Vikings have won 5 in a row and sit right behind the Lions in the standings at 10-2-0, while the Packers are third at 9-3-0. They're looking to extend a 3-game winning streak tonight. Green Bay 4-1 away from home. 4 players are confirmed out for Detroit. That includes offensive tackle Taylor Decker, defensive tackle DJ Reader, and defensive lineman Josh Pascal and Levi Onwuzurike. Green Bay's ruled out cornerback Jair Alexander, receiver Romeo Doubs, linebacker Edrin Cooper, and cornerback Corey Ballantyne. The forecast in Detroit tonight, mostly clear with temperatures in the mid-20s.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means. It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Lisi, before we move on from Thursday Night Football to the other news and notes around the NFL, and then a quick breakdown of what we will see in college football, with more to come tomorrow as well for Conference Championship Week. Lisa, you've been high on the Packers all year long, both in terms of tonight's game for Thursday night, maybe a sprinkle on that NFC North divisional price if they can pull off the outright upset tonight in Detroit. But it's not just the division. Green Bay, third best price to win the NFC right now at a 7-1 number, but well back of the two teams in that top tier. Detroit plus 150, Philadelphia $1 behind at plus 250. Do you still believe, Lisi Guy, that entering tonight's game, Green Bay provides value as a true conference contender?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, the injuries to Jordan Love right from week number 1 put some pressure on that team, right? And they responded with Malik Willis and the backups in certain roles, and they got quality wins. Think about this. They have won 7 of the last 8 games, if I'm not mistaken, right? So they're playing as good as anybody right now in terms of the conference. And again, I still think that Jordan Love, you look at the ability to challenge defenses over the top. That defense has been opportunistic, forcing turnovers now later in the regular season. They're not dynamic, and they're not certainly as statistically good as Detroit in certain areas, but they are good when it counts. And that's the biggest thing right now, is they find ways to win. And I really believe LaFleur is one of the best underrated coaches in the NFL. He doesn't get enough credit for game planning and in-game adjustments. He always has his teams prepared. And again, we'll see how it plays out, but I do feel Green Bay is a contender for an NFC championship.
Yeah, they certainly are right now. They would be in the 6th seed if today the season came to a close. And not that it is going to, but Lisa got those top 2 wild card spots based on how things are kind of forming right now in the NFC playoff picture with only 5 weeks remaining in this regular season are going to be highly coveted, because you're looking at 2 divisional title winners as of right now. The Seahawks would currently be the 3 seed. They're a 7-5 team from the NFC West. And the Falcons, based on tiebreakers, despite being only 6-6, would win the NFC South and be that 4 seed. So whether you're the Vikings in the 5 spot right now, or the Packers in the 6, or the Commanders trying to improve their position to take on what would seem to be the winners of the NFC West or NFC South with what could be a game above 500, a couple of games above 500, winning relatively weak divisions, you might have a shot, albeit on the road, to go win a game in the opening round of this postseason in the NFL. Joe, elsewhere, as tonight starts Week 14, again, only 5 weeks remaining in this NFL regular season, some other news and notes. Trevor Lawrence has been placed on injured reserve. His season is done. Yes, the scary concussion that he suffered on the dirty hit from Azeez Al-Shaair on Sunday in Duval County, but has also been dealing with nagging shoulder injuries for the better part of the last calendar year plus. He is electing to have shoulder surgery. So Trevor Lawrence, for a 2-win Jacksonville team, his season has likely come to a close.
Yeah, why'd they rush him back then? You see, and this is what, you keep going back to. The fact that he played against Houston in that game, I understand he's a football player and he wants to play and he wants to compete, but he is also the face of the franchise and he's your star quarterback. And if he was banged up and not 100% in any capacity, why roll him out there with nothing to play for? Forget the concussion. I'm just talking about the shoulder aspect of it, right? Shouldn't you make sure that he's 100% healed from that and then move forward? So it's unfortunate, but Trevor Lawrence, keep going back to, when they made the playoffs and they knocked off Brandon Staley in L.A., he's regressed over the past couple of years in terms of production. He has high highs at times, but he has low lows. And again, we've seen that again this year. We'll see. We'll see if, Peterson's the coach moving forward. But again, anticlimactic year for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars.
Incredibly, Joe. Incredibly so. Highly disappointing. A Jacksonville team that was 8-3 last year through 12 weeks, dropped 5 of its final 6 games to squander any advantage they had in the AFC South, but expected with a fully healthy Trevor Lawrence, who missed a game or two down the stretch last year, dealing with injuries throughout the final month and that poor performance and play. They'd be back, maybe hot on the heels of Houston for the AFC South or a wild card team in the AFC potentially. 2-10 football team that's going to fall well under their preseason win total of 8.5. 3.5-point road underdog in Nashville this week against the Titans. It is now Mac Jones's show. Kind of like Jacksonville to cover the number. Don't believe Tennessee should be laying a number against anybody. The weird thing, Joe, because you mentioned Doug Peterson, the writing seems to be on the wall. There's going to be some changes to the coaching staff, maybe front office this offseason. And normally when that's the case, in such a dramatically disappointing season, the team's not bought in anymore. There's not a ton of effort. Games aren't overly close. The Jags have oddly covered in 5 of their last 6, which I find a little bit peculiar.
Yeah, there's some young players on that team. I mean, who knows? They were abused early on. I keep going back to that primetime matchup with Buffalo where they were absolutely boat raced. I mean, you thought that Doug Peterson could have been fired after that game and they would have fell off a cliff. But to their credit, they're battling for jobs, and we'll see. Now, you might have kiboshed them, in terms of how good they were, right up until Thanksgiving. And here we are, catching 3.5 against Tennessee. Seems like they should cover with Mac Jones, but you don't know. They lose this game, the wheels might come off, and then they'll just pack it up. And here we go for Christmas and New Year's. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, I have no feeling on that game because of where Tennessee's at. Tennessee, a gutless performance against Washington. Unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. And Tennessee has been rather gutless this year, also for a team that has been struggling. 3-9 football team, no covers in any of their 9 losses so far this season. Joe, elsewhere, some news around the NFL. Azeez Al-Shaair, who laid the dirty hit on Trevor Lawrence at the end of the opening half on Sunday, was suspended for 3 games by the league office. That suspension upheld by the league office. Drew Lock is going to start once again for the New York Giants on Sunday. They're probably already hoping the year could be done. The Giants will host on Sunday in MetLife. Your guy making his return to Jersey, Darren Rizzi. 3.5-point favorite for the Saints as they head to East Rutherford on Sunday afternoon.
This is turning into be an intriguing game, Ben, because, Giants are winless at home, as you know. They are absolutely gutless in MetLife. Darren Rizzi comes back home, Jersey guy that played at Bergen Catholic. So the motivation is there. This team is playing very well in terms of New Orleans, right? Even when battled LA right down to the final drive where they had an opportunity to tie it. And now they're going to lay 3.5 points. This is a winnable game, in my opinion, for Brian Dable and the New York Giants, much like the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night against a team that they should have just killed in the New York Giants, and they covered, right? I think this is a game that the Giants view, hey, we could actually win one at home. Derek Carr has been inconsistent. I'm going to take the Giants with the points. I'm going to close my eyes and take the Giants, go against my guy, the Rizzler. I like the Gents to potentially strike the upset. What do you think about that? I think they're looking at this and saying, we can win this game. You got a dome team coming outside. I'm wearing a hoodie. It's 28 degrees. Saints ain't going to want to tackle in that, man. No way.
I was going to ask, why did you not get tickets to Sunday in East Rutherford from your guy, Darren Rizzi, that you lined up against? Now I know why. You'd be cheering on his opponent. Come on. The pride of Bergen Catholic. Guess it's what happens when you go to Don Bosco. You'll never understand those Garden State ties. College football up next, setting the stage for conference championship weekend in what is at stake here on FFC.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Investigators are searching for clues that could help them identify the masked gunman who stalked and killed the leader of one of the largest U.S. health insurance companies on a Manhattan sidewalk, then disappeared into Central Park. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas died in a dawn ambush Wednesday at age 50 as he walked to the company's annual investor conference at a Hilton in Midtown, blocks from tourist draws like Radio City Music Hall and the Museum of Modern Art. The police department offered a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. A former Florida ballerina has been sentenced to 20 years in prison following her manslaughter conviction for fatally shooting her estranged husband in 2020. Manatee County Court records show Circuit Judge Matt White imposed the sentence Tuesday on 32-year-old Ashley Benefield after rejecting her request for a new trial based on allegations of juror misconduct. Benefield contended that she killed her estranged husband, 58-year-old Doug Benefield, in self-defense during an argument at her house in Bradenton. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Hard to believe that Christmas is only a couple of weeks away, right? But there's still plenty of time to find incredible gift deals because Macy's Friends and Family Sale is happening now. What does that mean? It means when you use your coupon or Macy's card, you can take an extra 30% off, just like Friends and Family can. That's 30% off the best holiday gifts, 30% off the best designer brands, 30% off what's trending right now. It's just this week. It's just what you were looking for, and it's only at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Oh no, my phone.
Hear that? It's the sound of a skater dropping her phone and smashing it on the ice. Yep, it's definitely broken. But at Verizon, we got you. This Black Friday, trade in any phone, any condition from one of our top brands and get a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus on Unlimited Ultimate and Watch 7 and Tab S9 FE 5G. That's up to $1,900 in value. So you'll save big on 3 great gifts. Hurry into Verizon this Black Friday. Service plan required for watch and tablet. Up to $1,900 value based on phone, watch, and tablet. Trade in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Week 14 in the NFL kicks off tonight. The conference championship week in college football kicks off tomorrow. Lisi guy, we've got 3 conference title games on a Friday at the group of 5 level. We'll set the stage for Saturday, the Power 4 contest that we have on tomorrow's show with a preview of the Sunday slate around the NFL as well. But Lisi guy, let's start with Friday night in a game that more than likely will decide who earns that fifth and final, or potentially fourth of five, but a conference championship victory and thus automatic bid to the college football playoff between Boise State and UNLV. 3.5-point spread in favor of the Broncos to win the Mountain West Championship for a second consecutive year. Total, Lisi Guy, 57.5. What do you like in the Mountain West title game tomorrow night?
I like UNLV plus the points, but I really like the under. Now, the under opened up at, I believe, 58.5, 59. It's down to 57.5. We know both teams want to run it with Genty for Boise State and UNLV with one of the most consistent rushing attacks in all of college football. Barry Odom is a defensive-minded head coach. We know that the Rebels' defense is suspect at times. But in terms of a conference championship with a college football playoff berth on the line, I like the dog, right? But I really like the under because I think both teams will play it very close to the vest. So I like the Rebels potentially to win the game outright. But I'm all in on the under 57.5 bet.
Yeah, I think it's a really good look, Lisi Guy. I really do. By the way, this is not played in Las Vegas. It's not a neutral site game like some that we might see. This is on the Smurf turf, the blue turf, in Boise tomorrow night. So that is notable. Why? Especially because the Broncos were a 4-point road favorite in Las Vegas back on a Friday night to end out October. Boise State won that game and covered the number as well. Big spot, Lisi Guy, of course, not only for Boise State and UNLV, but Ashton Genty. If there is a hope to win a Heisman Trophy, they are going to need a monumental performance from Genty tomorrow night. Minus 6,000. The price on Travis Hunter to win the Heisman Trophy right now, hard to argue. Genty is, however, putting up a historic season. His number is 15-1.
Yeah, again, I mean, Genty has always got value, right? Especially when you look at it entering a conference championship game and the ability to just dominate and potentially put up 250 or 300. Do you take a shot and pull the trigger and say, you know what, I'm going to guarantee that he has a breakout performance. They go to the college football playoff and at 15-1, it's not bad value. It's just, it's hard because I would much rather just bet him for the game, right, than the Heisman and leave it up to somebody else. If you think he's going to have a breakout game, ult him as high as possible. See what you can get for multiple touchdowns in terms of that matchup at home against UNLV. And we know that UNLV, for the most part, has had some crazy games, right? Look at Syracuse where they lost in double overtime. They allow a lot of points at times. If he gets going downhill, they might not stop. So that's the way I would bet it if I was betting that game, but we'll see. He's deserving, I would say that.
Yeah, Boise State right now, number 10 in the college football playoff rankings. If things were to hold this weekend, Boise, who is currently 5 spots in front of Arizona State, 6 spots in front of Iowa State, the two teams that will match up in that Big 12 championship game on Saturday, it would be the Broncos earning that 4th and final opening round bye as the 4th highest ranked conference champ. That's if things go chalk this weekend. Boise State, Joe, has only been booked as a single-digit favorite twice against UNLV on the road in Las Vegas, against Washington State. They have covered in both. Boise State went over in its first 5 games of the year, under in 5 of its final 7. UNLV, an underdog 3 times this season. 2 outright wins against Houston and Kansas, and that non-cover against Boise State. All 3 games for the Rebs under, booked as a dog this year. I lean under 57.5 as well. Joe, it's a really cool thing, in my opinion, that our Friday night conference championship games are going to be played at the home sites of the higher-ranked team, or at least the team that finished in the better standing of their conference races. So the Smurf Turf tomorrow in Boise, Idaho, and on the banks of the Hudson River in Westchester County, maybe Dutchess County. It's Mitchie
Hudson
Stadium. Is it Hudson? Anyway, where the Army Black Knights will host Tulane on Friday night. But Lisi Guy, the Green Wave, 5.5-point road favorite. This game is going to be great. but it does lose a little bit of luster because the Green Wave, booked as a 2-touchdown favorite on Thanksgiving night at home against Memphis in the regular season finale, got upset outright by double digits. Had Tulane won that game and then won the American, and Boise loses tomorrow, it might have very well been the Green Wave into the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? Memphis and Seth Hennigan, got him in terms of that matchup. So we'll see, what they bring to the table. Again, we saw them play Navy on the road. They dominated that matchup. That was where Horvath got hurt in that matchup, and they just dominated, built a 21-0 first half lead. Never looked back. The physicality, offense and defense aligns. And I know Army got kicked in the teeth against Notre Dame, but we're talking about now, not on a neutral field. We're talking about a game in one of the best landscapes in all of college football, a team that's disciplined, fighting for a conference championship. In this type of situation, I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take this could be my best bet for the night. I'm going to go back to the Army Cadets in this matchup. Tulane has been a money machine for me throughout the past couple of seasons prior to this year with Willie Fritz, before we moved on to Houston. Give me the Cadets, baby. Triple option lives.
Listen, it is going to be an incredible game. We'll have a few more thoughts on that one in the CUSA title game in Jacksonville, Alabama, between Jack State and Western Kentucky tomorrow night as well. Lisa Guy, I'm looking at the rushing props tomorrow, and I don't know if Bryson Daly's number is high enough. We'll talk more. College Football Conference Championship Week next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. Lisi Guy, we continue to preview Conference Championship Friday in college football. 3 of our 9 FBS Conference Championship games this weekend. Lisi Guy, we hope for competitive games always. All 9 games feature a spread of 5.5 points or fewer. Tulane, 5.5-point favorite on Friday night in Hudson County, New York, inside Michie Stadium against the Army Black Knights. Total 45 and a hook. Bryson Daly, quarterback for Army, 110 rushing yards in all 9 FBS games he has played. If the Black Knights are going to keep this game close, Joe, it's Bryson Daly, then it's Bryson Daly again, and then would you look at that? It's more Bryson Daly. 128 and a hook is his rushing yards prop. I think you got to bet it if you think Army wins this football game against the Green Wave, who did allow 236 yards on the ground of Memphis. That was their undoing on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, again, it's outside. It's going to be cold. We know the environment in terms of, West Point, how a Friday night is going to feel. So, yeah, it's a great look. And think about this. As bad as they got beat up by Notre Dame, he still got his yards. It wasn't easy, but he still got his yards. So 128, I like it. Well, what's he looking at?
I'm just looking at the number. Bryson Daly's anytime touchdown prop is minus 220. Throughout most of the year, it was 5-6 Bills or more because he has 25 rushing touchdowns this season. Now, I wouldn't recommend laying minus 220 on most things in college football, but if you were ever going to do it, that's not terrible. And then if you wanted to take it a step further, Bryson Daly has scored multiple rushing touchdowns in the last 8 games for Army, even including in the blowout loss to Notre Dame, and it's plus 220 for him to score twice. I know the total of the game is only 45 and a hook. That's something. Lisa, I can't bet it here in New York State. I might need you to sprinkle on that for me, and I'll talk to you and even up on Saturday morning. We'll figure that out. That's a pretty good number, I just would say, for a sprinkle of plus money. Lisa Guy, Conference USA championship game on Friday night as well. Jacksonville, Alabama. Second year as an FBS program, and Rich Rod already has the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State competing for a conference championship. 4.5-point favorite is Jack State at home against Big Red, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. Total stands at 57.5. What's your best play for the CUSA title game tomorrow night?
I like, again, Western Kentucky got them a couple of weeks last time they played. I think they get them again. I don't know. Now, it was 19-13, right? Last time, 19-14.
17.
I like
Last
the over.
week, yeah.
I like this game over. I think we're going to have a complete turnaround, but I'm going to take the points, and you're getting an extra point of value because I believe it opened up at 3.5. Now it's up to 4.5. Rematch, I don't care. I would much rather have Western Kentucky in their offense than Rich Rod and Jacksonville State.
You know, it is interesting, Lisa Guy. Western Kentucky is playing in this game because of an upset at home last week against Jacksonville State, snapping an 8-game win streak for the Gamecocks and handing them their first blemish in CUSA action. WKU won outright 19-17 as a slight 1.5 home favorite. Last 4 games for Jacksonville State with a single-digit spread, all 4 have stayed under. I bet Western Kentucky around a plus 195 price a few weeks ago to win CUSA because I love what Tyson Helton and the offense can do with Caden Veldkamp as their quarterback. He threw for 301 yards and a touchdown last week. Only offensive touchdown. How about this, Lisa Guy? If the game does come down to a tight one around that point spread, I would back Western Kentucky. Lucas Carnerio, their kicker, 4 of 4 last week in the upset for Western Kentucky. 15 of 16 this year. Guy is perfect from 50 yards or more. 5 of 5 could be crucial in the CUSA title game. Jacksonville State, third best rushing offense in the country. They still had 5.3 yards per pop against WKU a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, again, Rich Rod turning it around. They were very inconsistent at the start of the year, has them playing for a conference championship. And again, when you face off, they lose last week. They have to regroup. We'll see if they could do it. But I think we get points in this matchup, Ben.
Here's your rundown for tomorrow on Football Full Circle. On a Friday, we preview the entirety of the NFL Sunday slate, but also Conference Championship Saturday in college football. He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. We'll talk tomorrow, noon Eastern.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.